Hello and welcome to the show. This is the Gersnet Podcast. So as the temperature in Britain kicks up a gear, Rangers were finally back setting the pitch alight at Ibrox, and we're almost ready for the new season to kick off. Thursday evening saw a sizzling display from Gerrard's new-look Rangers with a 6-0 pre-season rout over English League Two side Bury. We'll take a look back at all the action and assess where we're heading into the new campaign. Also, we're looking ahead to a European return as we welcome FK Skupje to Govan on Thursday, hopefully to put the demons of Luxembourg to rest. And finally, we've all been treated to the first fruits of the new kit manufacturing deal with the Danish designers Hummel. We'll be discussing all three new strips, and we'll lap up some nice spitting tantrums from across the city. My name's Ross Bennett. I'll be your Gersnet Podcast host this week. And joining me on this fine evening, first of all, we've got regular guest David Fraser. David, welcome back. How's your summer been?
Good evening, Ross. Yeah, my summer's been good so far, lapping up the good weather, and thankful that the football's back for real.
I know. Folk that aren't interested in football are saying it feels like it's only just finished, and obviously it's still going on with the World Cup. For me, it has been far too long, and I am raring to go for a new season. Secondly, back by popular demand, especially amongst all of our female listeners, you've heard of the icons of Ibrox, but please welcome the god of Gersnet. It's the one and only Pete. Pete, is the weather out on the continent as fine as it is here in Britain?
Well, my wife was back in, I shouldn't say that when you're saying the god of women and things like that, but should I? When my wife was back in Scotland, and she said that it's warmer here, so we're having it a wee bit warmer than you. It seemingly cools off a lot more at night where you are. And here it's right into the night, it's still warm.
Tell you what, I don't know about cooling off at the night time because I am still having some sweaty nights in the sheets, but that is possibly for another discussion. Right, we have got so much to talk about tonight, even though it's pre-season, season hasn't kicked off yet. There's so much to get through. We're going to dive straight in and look back over the pre-season game against Bury that we had on Friday night. Obviously, we had plenty of new signings making their Ibrox bow and their first game out in a Rangers shirt. David, I'm going to come to you first. Out of all those new signings, did anyone really impress you? Were you happy with what you've seen on the recruitment front?
I'm happy with the recruitment so far, Ross. Out of all the guys, the new signings that played on Friday night, I've got to be honest, the guy that stuck out for me was Nikola Katic. Having said that, it's difficult to prejudge any new signing on based on the level of opposition that Rangers were up against. I mean, you could say that all the new guys played well. Scott Arfield certainly looked the part, looked to get involved. Connor Goldson was good, aggressive, but I wouldn't read too much into it, given that Bury are essentially an English Fourth Division team, and they're early on into their pre-season. So, whilst it was a good performance from Rangers, and we've seen some noticeable differences in how they approach the game in terms of shutting down and harrying and being sharper and just trying to do things generally more quickly, coupled with the rotation in terms of the formation in the middle of the park, which is quite noticeable. I think it's early days yet, and we should leave the judgment to later on in the early qualifiers for the Europa League.
Probably a fair comment. I'm like a kid in a sweetie shop at the minute, and knowing the football's coming back and then getting a 6-0 win, I'm just dead excited. And you've brought me crashing back down to earth there.
Surely not.
The three lads you've highlighted in Nikola Katic, Arfield and Connor Goldson, I think were the three standouts for me in terms of the new signings as well. But everyone did play well. And I was impressed with something that all of the new signings brought. We've seen, obviously, John Flanagan's there, and he's not shying away from a tackle. The two centre-halves were complementing each other so nicely, I thought, and I felt like there wasn't really I feel like in recent years in centre-back pairings, we've had one that you might call the old one or the slow one or the weak one. The two of them were sharp, were aggressive. Nobody shied away from any challenges, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that can bring. Pete, I know in the past you've always had your eye on the youngsters coming through from what used to be obviously known as Auchenhowie, and is now being known as the Hummel Training Centre for sponsorship reasons. And obviously a lot of these youngsters got a run out on Friday night as well. I'm sure you were casting a keen eye over the youngsters and how they got on. What did you make of their performances, and did any of the young lads stick out for you?
Well, I think Glenn Middleton, I can't see any way that he's not going to get games this season. He's just electric. I saw him in Germany and at a youth tournament, and you could see he was a class above everybody there. And no, even when he came on, he set up 2 of the goals, and he's just I can't see him. Rudden took his goal really well, although it was a tap in, but the pace and the ball, I've seen players miss them. Well, Morelos has missed quite a few of them.
Aye, absolutely.
But he took the goal well, cut the pace out of it, put it into the net. So yeah, really good. And also glad to see that the centre back, I've lost his name now, Aidan Wilson. I'm glad to see that he's getting another chance.
He's impressed when he's been on in the first team. You know, he didn't get so much of a chance a lot of last season, but we have seen him a few times, and he's definitely looked like one for the future, if maybe a little small for a centre half. But again, I thought he was good.
Yeah, he certainly is, and I think he'll probably be maybe number 4 this year. I still get a feeling we'll bring in another centre half, and that's the rumours anyway. There's another centre half coming in, and that he'll be number 4. I don't think we'll go for any more than that at centre half.
No, and maybe that's dependent on Bruno Alves moving out. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about him going to Parma, which seems to be all but completed. Don't forget, we've obviously still got Fabio Cardoso sitting on the bench. I don't know what the situation will be with him moving on, or if he'll have a part to play. But I thought new signings and youngsters, it all looked promising, and I think you could already see actually the work that had been done in Spain was paying dividends. But listen, David, you're right to point out that this is early on in Bury's pre-season. It's not a great standard of opposition. Do you think there's anything that we can take, any positives we can take from the game, or is it just a kind of meaningless training exercise?
No, you can never say it's meaningless. When there's a new regime comes into the club with fresh ideas and different expectations of the playing staff, then no game's pointless at this early juncture. So I can definitely take positives from it. It was discernible that they were snapping at the tackles, and to be fair, that's been Stevie's mantra ever since he's taken the job and started his work in the 1st of June. You know, he's been saying that, and I don't know if any of you guys caught it. You know, there was a video circulating the internet where he was caught on camera saying, "I don't want people getting in half-hearted and you know, into tackles and being phony about it. You need to get that into your heads right now." So he's obviously, they've laid down the ground rules. They've been upfront with the expectations, and his mantra has been, you know, if there's a way of expectation to deliver for the supporters, and if you don't feel that you can cut it, then, you know, we'll find you another club. He's been quite marked in pointing that out publicly. So that obviously resonates with supporters. And you've seen the other night there, even Josh Windass was trying his best to shut down far quicker than he's ever done the Rangers jersey. He might not have come out with the ball too many times in terms of making tackles, but there was just a general feeling. You'd expect that, given that they're working for a new manager. But I think Stevie's, you know, the team looked to play in his image as a player. You know, he's dynamic, wants to win. You know, he's not going to settle for second best. He's not going to be shrugged off. So he's trying to, you know, impart that, you know, feeling, that belief in his players. And whilst, you know, Bury, you know, they're, as you say, not a great standard of opposition, but he started as he meant to go on, and Friday night was a decent run out for the team.
Absolutely. And listen, I'm glad you brought up Josh Windass there, because it seems like every time we record one of these podcasts, we have something to say about Josh Windass, and we are again. We're going to come back to him in just a moment. Pete, David there, he's talking about seeing a kind of new aggression that Gerrard seems to have put into the squad, and that's what he's not going to settle for people shying away from challenges, and he's going to demand 100% from the players. I'm sure you'll have been following the game from your base out on the continent, watching it on Rangers TV, so you'll have had a slightly different view. But did you sort of see anything from the game that would give you any kind of insight into Gerrard's tactical approach? He's kind of kept his cards close to his chest as to how he's going to set up. Did this game give us any clues?
Well, I've heard a lot of people saying that there was 4-3-3, but I really thought it was a 4-1-4-1 tactical setup that he played, and I think that's the way he'll go. What was obvious for me is the early pressing. There's definitely going to be an early pressing, and another thing, the speed of the attacks. I think it was a goal, Murphy goal. I mean, I don't care you can say this team were only in the first week of training, but the speed that attack went at, it would have broke most defences. It was absolutely just touch in the goal. And I think that's the high pressing or the early pressing. And I think it'll be a 4-1-4-1 he's going for mostly.
I agree with your assessment of how they've set up, and it was a 4-1-4-1. And you're spot on about the really fast, free-flowing attacking movement. And that's something that the Bury coach has picked up on as well. I'm sure you'll have seen that he's called us, you've had the red arrows, well, they were like the blue arrows. And it's great. It's really great to hear that. Setting up in this 4-1-4-1, though, for me, right, so we had, obviously, the goalkeeper in the back four, and then Ross McCrory sat just in front of the back four, which I think we're probably all in agreement that that's his best position, and he's a revelation there. But then the four in front of him, you've got Candeas, Murphy, Windass and Arfield, and then Morelos up top. And what worried me was that second four of, the two wingers plus Windass and Arfield, they're all quite attacking players to me. They're all very attack-minded. They'll smell blood and they'll go for it. And I felt at times that left us a little bit open in midfield. Ross McCrory is still young and inexperienced. He's a hell of a footballer. He's very good at stopping play and disrupting play. But I think there's a chance that when we're, really pushing for a fast attack, we possibly stretch the midfield a bit too much, and could be exploited by better midfields than we were up against, and by faster and fitter midfields than we were up against in Bury. So that concerns me a little bit. Not nearly enough to take any of the shine or the gloss off a good pre-season performance. And look, we scored 6 goals. How can we not be happy with that? Just something that I've got one eye on, and possibly we need to look out for. But Pete, staying with you, David mentioned a few minutes ago there that he was kind of happy with the way that he saw Josh Windass fighting for the ball, showing a little bit more grit and determination. I think I disagree with that assessment. For me, it was, a new season, but it's the same old Josh Windass. Possibly harsh to say that one pre-season game in, but I was, for me, he's gone missing again. The output wasn't there. He'll have a couple of minutes of running and then hide away until the halftime whistle. I'll come to both of you because I think we need a rounded opinion on this. But Pete, with you first of all, do you see any difference in Josh Windass over that 90 or however many minutes he was on for? And do you think, with his work rate and his attitude, does he have a future under Steven Gerrard?
I actually think Windass played not too bad Friday, sorry. And he set up the Morelos goal, and he was quite good passing. I don't think he was as bad as actual people are making out. Whether he'll be in Gerrard, I think Gerrard's going to bring in other players, which will probably push Windass out the team. But I don't think I think he'll be part of his plans. I don't think it's unless somebody comes in with a bid for him for about 3 or 4 million, then he'll probably go. But I don't think Windass. I don't think he'll end up sitting in the stand. Put it that way. I think he'll always be a part of the planning.
Yeah, possibly. I think what I'm trying to say is that maybe there's a feeling that Josh Windass has been the first name on the team sheet for too long and hasn't necessarily earned that. He had a wonderful 6 weeks back in, around February time, and scored a lot of goals. But for me, his attitude does not necessarily warrant, his automatic starting position in the team, and I think maybe we need to recruit someone to push him a wee bit more. David, how about you? You said you're a bit happier with what you've seen from Windass on Friday night. What would you like to see from him going forward this season?
Well, I'll just qualify what I said about him earlier. I was just making reference to the fact that he was trying to close down far quicker in line with the rest of his teammates. I can see where you're coming from with regards to, was it the same old Josh Windass? What would I like to see from him? Well, first of all, Pete rightly mentions there, he put the ball right in Alfie's head for the fifth goal. Cracking cross. He'd a shot at goal, which where I was sat in the government stand, looked as if it was quite close, but you guys, I think, were watching it on RTV, so it may well have been a bit wider of the post than what it would appear to have been from my vantage point. In his defence, Ross, I think the thing that stuck out for me in the first 15-20 minutes, the rotation in the middle of the park. I mean, both of you mentioned there a 4-1-4-1. There was several different formations within that four. Granted, Ross McCrory was always screening the centre halves, but sometimes it was flat, sometimes it was a diamond. The other times, Daniel Candace was going over to the left-hand side, the opposite side of the pitch, the left-hand side of midfield. Arfield was dropping deep. Then he was going to the head of the diamond. And Josh Windass looked to me as though he was slightly unsure about where he should be in the park. So it may well be that he's finding it a bit harder to come to grips with what Stevie's asking him to do. However, I mean, it's too early to say on the basis of 190 minutes. I don't know if the TNS game that was played at Auchenhow was screened on RTV, whether it was highlights or live, I don't know. So you guys might be better qualified to assess his general performance in terms of how he's fitting into the new regime. But I'd like to think that Josh Windass has the necessary tools, or basic tools that is, for Stevie to work with. I mean, Tom Culshaw has made mention on RTV and an official media, club media channels, that his specific job as a technical coach is to do one-on-one improvement with players. So I would imagine that Josh is going to get a lot of one-to-one attention, because let's face it, I mean, Josh Windass has got tremendous pace and acceleration. He can burst away from the best and fastest defenders. He's not the greatest at dribbling. Sometimes his decision making is not the greatest, but this season will be a big proving ground for Josh Windass as to whether he can cut it as a Rangers player going forward. And I'd like to think that with the manager being early on in his career, and latterly when he paired up with Fernando Torres when Liverpool came second in the league to Manchester United, that season Stevie played as an auxiliary striker, which a similar role to where you would possibly see Josh playing. So I'd like to think that Josh can improve getting into the start of the league season.
Can I just say, see if you see the two Arfield goals, Josh Windass was actually standing or next to him or just in front of him before they went in, when he put the ball into the net. So he was sort of in the same position as Arfield. But Arfield was obviously the one that got there first, or was in the right position, and Windass was either just a wee bit too far away, or a wee bit too much in front. But he was always in that sort of a position.
Yeah, fair point. You can't argue with that. And I don't know, maybe he does get a hard time from people like me, because his statistical output in terms of his goals and assists is good. It's absolutely what you'd want from not even a striker, from a more attacking midfielder, forward player. So look, maybe he does get a hard time. For me, the jury's still out, and it sort of annoys me that the jury's out 3 years down the line or whatever it is. But sometimes, maybe you have to remember we signed this guy for £50,000 or whatever it was, and he's certainly delivered more than £50,000 worth of goods. Right, I'm just going to have one last word on something that I picked up from the game, and I want both of your opinions on this actually, is that it's a pre-season friendly and we've seen Steven Gerrard, it's his first game at Ibrox, and he stood in the dugout in a tracksuit and a hoodie. For me, the manager of Rangers should wear a suit and tie, should wear the club tie, should wear his blazer, and that's just how I would expect a Rangers manager to be dressed. But I'm not necessarily right in that view, because maybe, what does it matter if he gets results? Pete, you first. Where do you come down on this? Should Gerrard be wearing a suit and tie? Do you think he will when we move into the season? Or does it not matter what he wears as long as he gets the result?
I think he will go to a suit and tie. For me, it doesn't really matter. I thought he was fine the way he was. And I must admit, the brown shoes that the managers wear, I think, are absolutely terrible. I wish they would give them decent, ordinary pair of shoes. So, brogues, we're going back to about the 1970s that brogues were in fashion. So
vintage, that's the fashion. It's retro.
Well, yeah, maybe it is. I'm brought up now in a sort of a Dutch German way of life. So, for me, things like that are a way back in the 70s. But I've got these arguments with my mother when I'm back in Scotland, the likes of funerals and things like that. And I hate to talk about things like that on here, but in Holland, you just go in your denims and a jacket, and here in Scotland, you've got to go in a suit and a tie. So I've always got arguments about that, but I've always got because I live in the continent, a completely different dress sense than people in Britain. And for me, I think it's a sporting event. If he wants to wear a tracksuit, he wears a tracksuit. If he wants to wear a suit, let him wear a suit. It's up to him. It's up to Gerrard.
David, how about you?
It's an interesting one, Ross. Like you, I'm kind of in the traditionalist kind of camp up to a point. I was slightly surprised, and first seeing him walk out with the tracksuit on, but it's a summer's night. I can see why people might be slightly miffed because it's his first match. I don't know. It's difficult. I think Pete's got a point. Times move on, and I'll be brutally honest. I'm of the mind. I'm just glad that Stevie's here and he's our manager. If he chooses to put on a suit and a collar and tie for certain matches, or if he wears a manager's jacket for other games, that's up to him. I just hope he gets the results. I think Ali McCoist sometimes wore a suit, a collar and tie, and then other times he wore a tracksuit or the kind of training gear. And I don't remember people getting on his case for doing that. So I'd like to think that Stevie can has the discretion to pick and choose when to wear a shirt and tie. Maybe when we go to Parkhead or Pittodrie for the other game of the season, that he'll put on the official club attire. But we'll need to wait and see what happens there.
David, the day we win 55, he can be standing in his underpants if he wants. I won't give a damn.
I'm with you in that one, Pete.
If he's there stood in his underpants, we'll have to hold back half the women of Glasgow. Guys, great insight as always. What we're going to do now, for me, it's a hugely exciting week. Rangers are back in Europe and we've got a score to settle. We've got a point to prove. I'm flying up to Glasgow on Thursday to come to this one. I am so excited. Thursday night under the lights at Ibrox as we take on FK Skupje in the Europa League. Pete, I'll come to you first here as our continental correspondent. What do you think we can expect from a club like FK Skupje playing in a relatively unknown league like the Macedonian League is? I have no experience of it. I have no idea what to expect from him. Do you have any idea as to how Skupje and the challenge they present will be different from the likes of Bury and TNS?
Well, I think at Ibrox they'll sit back and and try and dig in to get the result. I think they'll try to do the same as Nadercorn done last year and just get keep it a 1-0 at Ibrox or a 0-0. Obviously, they hope for a 0-0. And I don't see them being very attacking, to be honest. The thing, I think they'll be better than. I mean, they're in Macedonian First League, so obviously I think that'll be better than Bury in the English third or fourth division. But no, I don't see them coming out and being attacking. And really, it's a game. I'm just going. I don't know. I've never seen them. Well, only on YouTube videos, but you don't know what the opposition's like there. I don't see. If Rangers get put out with this one, then bring back Pedro.
There you go. That's a Gersnet exclusive.
That's a joke, by the way.
No, it's never getting that bad. David, how about you? I'm sure you'll be going to this one as well. What kind of changes, as Scoopy will be harder for our scouts to go and analyse, and there won't be as much data and information on them as we could get against the likes of Bury. Would you like to see changes in how we've set up against Bury and TNS, or do you think it would be right to go with an attacking framework, especially at home?
I don't see any change from the starting lineup. They started the game on Friday night. I fully expect to see John Flanagan at left back. Obviously Katic and Goldson in the centre halves, and James Tavernier, and he's been named the club captain. He'll be right back. The team will tend to pick itself, I would think, Ross. Just looking at the Scoopy, they play in the Macedonian First League, which is in the UEFA coefficients, that's 34th. The Scottish Premier League's 26th currently. Obviously, the coefficient in the Scottish League since their demise after administration has obviously plummeted. Even the Azerbaijani leagues ahead of the Scottish Premier League these days. Incidentally, in their league performance last season, out of the 36 games played, they won 13, drew 12 and lost 11. They scored 51 goals, they conceded 46, with obviously a goal difference of +5. They accumulated 51 points, whereas the champions, Skendia, amassed 91 points. So I think, reading into that, the standard of league is somewhere around about the League of Ireland, round about that. So I think, like Pete, I echo what Pete thinks. I think that they'll come, they'll be organised, they'll probably play with 10 men behind the ball for a lot of the game. And I honestly think that the Rangers team will have too much from. I think that it's the importance of not shooting yourself in the foot, not conceding silly goals at home is not lost. It's definitely not lost in Steven Gerrard and Gary McAllister. And I think they will convey the importance to the players. I'm enthused with the centre half pairing. So far, obviously, we're only 90 minutes in, but these guys, they're big units, and they want to attack the ball. Same with Aidan Wilson when they come on, and for that matter, Kyle Bradley, the boy that just get drafted in. They want to attack the ball, and that's the big difference for me. Obviously, Nikola Katic and Connor Goldson are 6'3" or 6'4" and 6'3" respectively, so they're sizable guys, and they seem to cover the ground quite well. John Flanagan obviously doesn't take any prisoners, and he is not, he's not that adventurous going forward. He likes to keep his discipline in terms of the team shape. So I think that you'll see as I said, the lineup that started the game against Bury, and I hope if we can replicate, getting a couple of quick goals in the first 10 to 20 minutes. Hopefully, if no worse than getting 2-0 up at half time and keeping a clean sheet, that's obviously imperative, of paramount importance to have a healthy lead going across for the return leg over Macedonia.
I think this team's obviously going to be a lot fitter than Bury were. And what I sort of see is that there'll be the likes of the Scottish lower Premier League teams that are super fit and fight to defend. A wee bit the way like Russia played against Croatia. That's I expect something like that. No, obviously not of that class, but a wee bit like that. Just defending, super fit, chasing every ball. That's the way I expect to see them. Yeah,
look, you both raised some really good points. It's probably fair to say they're no mugs, they're no world beaters, they're somewhere in the middle. We should have too much for them. For me, it's imperative that we keep a clean sheet because we do not want to be going over to Macedonia playing in that heat. I don't know what their environment. I think it's at the National Stadium in Macedonia, so I don't know what the environment will be like, but it won't be friendly.
Can I just come in that they've actually got a bad reputation for hooligans?
Right, there you go. So it will be hostile. Let's say hostile, hot. We don't want to be going over and conceded at Ibrox and making it unnecessarily nervy for ourselves.
Yeah, and they seemingly get a thing about stealing other teams' banners and putting them up on their side for the sort of we've got your banner. So that seems to be part of their thing.
Right. That's probably a fair point to say then.
And I love their club song. Have you heard their club song?
No. Are you giving us a rendition?
Yeah. Scooby, Scooby Doo. Sorry, I'll turn my mic off.
Honestly, who invited him back? We're in second season now and we're still having nonsense like that. Right. Anyone that's listening, apologies for the sing-song. And if you are going to Macedonia, it's useful information from Pete there. Just be sensible, just be careful. If they've got this reputation, there's no point getting yourself into any bother. I love the fact that we're in the Europa League at the minute. I love being back in Europe. It's just massive for me. I get so excited for it. But I think with, David, you mentioned earlier our coefficient getting absolutely slaughtered whilst we were in the wilderness and the expansion of UEFA to other nations and the amount of teams that are now qualifying for, or not qualifying, but getting into the Europa League qualifiers, making it harder and harder for teams like us to actually get to the group stages. David, what is a reasonable expectation for us in Europe here? What do you think we should expect from the club? Is it too much to expect them to get to the group stage? Should we expect them to get past Scoopy and no further? Where do you think we should be looking?
Obviously, we discussed this at the last pod at the tail end of the season that's just finished there, Ross, and I said that we should look to get into the group stages. Now, we've obviously got to play 4 qualifying rounds, which will mean 8 games to get there. Obviously, we only know the opponents for the next round, which is a Croatian side who again will be no mugs. The Macedonian team that we play on Thursday night again will be no mugs. I think a better way of informing your opinion about where we should really expect to be will be largely determined by who Stevie signs between now and the end of the end of the transfer window. As hopefully, we start progressing through the rounds. The chat is that Umar Sadiq hopefully will be a Rangers player sometime next week. Whether that's in time for the second leg, I'm presuming that with the registration that he wouldn't be registered in time to play on Thursday night, but hopefully he may well get dispensation to play in the return leg on a Tuesday. So I hope Rangers, we still need what you alluded to there with Josh Windass, and you'll probably laugh here when I point out that Daniel Candeias, I don't know you guys watching the game the other night, Daniel Candeias was his typical busy self, rushing about, closing down opposition players, helping out James Tavernier on the right-hand side, putting balls into the box, but a lot of them, they didn't really amount to much. That's still a bugbear of mine. I think that Stevie he's not going to stand for that for too much longer. He'll have identified, if I can see it and thousands of others can see it, you can bet your bottom dollar that Stevie can definitely see it. So I think that's not lost on him. I think he will look to strengthen in the forward areas, not just essentially as for centre forwards. And as he adds to the squad with more quality, I think that will then give you a better idea of where we can expect to be. If they sign decent quality, I think that group stage qualification is a decent ask. And I think that the guy himself, he spoke really well from what I've heard of him on club media channels. He seems as if he gets it. He's obviously came from a similar footballing institution in Liverpool, so there's not really a big shock in terms of the change in environment for him, and it demands winners. There was an interview where he said that he wants to ask guys that come. He's looking for hungry players, and he said that he's one of the hungriest people on the planet when it comes to getting the most out of his career, winning matches and winning big matches. So I think he'll place that demand on the playing squad. And after the Scoopy games, assuming that we do get through them and qualify, I think if there's guys there that he suspects that they're not really going to come up to the mark, I think he'll move into the transfer market. And the squads, including Kyle Bradley, the squads get 30 members just now. That's obviously going to be pared back. And when it gets pared back, any players that leave, you'd like to think that the guys that come in to fill some of the positions, I think he'll probably look to have a squadron about 24, 25 possibly, maybe 26. It would be augmented with some of the young guys. That the guys that do come in will be of an uplifting quality. And I think that'll largely determine where we get to.
Definitely. Fair point, very reasonable. And I guess then it depends on how well financially backed he'll be, and that's a debate for another day. Pete, just out of interest, you living over in Holland, who's your closest kind of big football club out there?
No, the closest is FC Twente. That's the one. But I actually live in Germany. I live just across the border. I moved across the border because the price of a house is far cheaper than in Holland.
So if we draw FC Twente in the Europa League this year, you're getting the barbecue on and getting the beers in?
Well, unfortunately, FC Twente dropped down to the second league this year, unexpectedly. But you come across from a barbecue anyway. But anyway, I want to say there was rumoured on the Four Lads Had a Dream podcast, they said tonight that they expect 4 players to be going away this week, and that's probably Alves, Cardozo, Hodgson, and another one. And I think Sadiq will probably be coming in this week. So I think we've got to wait for that.
Absolutely. There's things going on. There's things happening in the background, and it's exciting. It's a big week for us, and I'm looking forward to it. Final topic for us tonight. It's been a big week in Glasgow with the release of the new Rangers strips for the forthcoming season. We've had 3 outfield strips, the home, the away, and the third kit have been released. It's the first strips that we've seen designed by Hummel. Now, we're going to caveat this by saying at the moment, things are all up in the air with Sports Direct. We're recording this as we do on a Sunday night. I think probably even by the time you guys are listening to it, the situation might have changed. At the moment, we don't know if and when we're going to be able to buy these strips. We don't know how, if we can't buy the strips, if that will affect any contracts we have with Hummel. It's all up in the air and we don't know. The best thing we can do at the moment, these strips have been released. It has caused a huge reaction, both from fans of the club and from enemies of the club. We're going to have to discuss it. Pete, you first of all, the strips have been released this week. Just your initial reaction, what did you think of them? How do they look?
No, they look, the home strip looks great. I must admit, I'm not a great fan of diagonal stripes, so I'm not really, the second strip doesn't really, although that's the only thing I don't like about it, but that's just a personal taste. The orange strip, obviously for me, having a Dutch part in it, and totally nothing to do with any sectarian issue. I like the orange strip because, as I say, I would buy it for my kids because I live in Holland, or I lived in Holland, and most part of my life is in Holland. I think it's great. Oh, we had a big discussion about the black keeper strip during the week. Whether I don't know whether I'm that great in a black strip, but I actually thought it was to do with heat, but seemingly it's the material that makes the heat and not the colour. So I won't step into that discussion again.
No, I mean, I don't know what you've done in your career so far, but I'm pretty sure you know a fashion designer. So I don't know, David. How about you? You know, I remember hosting one of these podcasts when the Hummel deal was announced, and there were a lot of folk who were kind of less than chuffed with the retailer with the manufacturer that we'd gone with, saying, you know, they wanted Nike, they wanted Adidas. I think these kits have come out. I agree with Pete. I think they look superb. I'm not so keen on the away kit, but it's certainly not the worst one we've had over the years. But the home strip looks wonderful. I think the third strip looks stunning visually. It looks great. The players apparently are, you know, happy in how they feel on the pitch. They feel they can move properly in them. They're very breathable. It feels good to them. It looks good to us. Are people kind of eating their words now about when they were moaning over Hummel being chosen as opposed to Nike or Adidas?
I don't know. It's just any personal preference, I reckon, Ross. I know that obviously with the timing of certain commercial deals expiring, word is that Adidas and Nike were definitely interested in securing the contract to be the technical kit supplier to Rangers. So the Hummel thing, it's got echoes of when we swapped strips from Umbro to Admiral for the 1990-91 season. Albeit the only difference being that, you know, we were the league champions at that time. It seems, you know, people are thinking, oh, that was a head scratcher. Admiral. It's a similar type of brand. Hummel, you know, to the best of my knowledge, other than Middlesbrough, certainly in British football, there's not really any high-profile clubs are supplied by Hummel. Obviously, we're one now. So it could be a bit of, you know, synergist gratification for both parties, you know, where we raise the profile of Hummel and, you know, the kind of retro, niche, kind of trendy shirt acquirer, shall we say, even in the continent, might say, well, I fancy a Rangers shirt, you know, it's made by Hummel, it's quite, you know, it's a dark horse in the strip stakes. Yeah, I think the strips look okay. I think from a fan's perspective, in terms of purchasing one, obviously the quality. If it survives, you know, multiple washes and maintains its look and feel, then that's obviously going to instill goodwill with regards to repeat purchases. Maybe, you know, if when they eventually go on sale, if somebody maybe buys a home strip, you know, if the quality is good, then, you know, mum or dad treat the kids to an away strip or a third strip, you know, come Christmas or birthdays or whatever. And the players, you say, if the players are comfortable in it, and you know, looking at the pre-season tour of Spain, you know, Stevie's walking about it, and, you know, Stevie could walk about in anything and he'd carry it off and make it look good. So, I'm fine with him. You know, when we went through the last 6 years, especially the last couple of years where we've come back into the Premier League, we've kind of underperformed. It's almost as if we were shadow boxing. You know, we weren't really taking it, you know, from outside looking in. It would look as if our Rangers been really serious about what they're doing. We finally look as if we're starting to get to grips with, we're going to be serious about what we're doing. And results in the park are of primary importance, and kit manufacturers, to me, are of secondary importance. But, you know, the strips look good, and let's just hope that the boys go off to a flyer and they start carrying Rangers and the Hummel double team branding into Europe and doing their business.
I think that's a fair summation. Pete, I think we'd be remiss not to kind of address this head on, and you alluded to it a couple of minutes ago about the links between the orange kit and perceived sectarianism or religious connotations. And there's been a lot of outrage, whether that's faux offence or real offence or whatever, coming from sections of Scotland, sections of the media. And I guess it begs the question, are we unnecessarily inviting criticism by putting out an orange strip?
Not in my opinion. You always get crazy people. I mean, I read a couple of tweets from one Celtic Joe. He had wrote a letter to Hummel saying that I don't know if you knew about it, but it's all to do with the Orange Walk and this and that. And Rangers had never signed a Catholic before 1989. And I mean, you just can't believe these people. It's unbelievable. I don't think many Celtic supporters really care about it, and I don't think many Rangers supporters have. I mean, there are some Rangers supporters just want it to be that way, but it's a colour of a strip. Let's just go on with it. As Stevie says, let's go on with the football.
David, is there anything there you disagree with?
No, I'm to be honest, Ross, I try not to pay heed to as Pete calls them crazies. There's enough people with an agenda against Rangers out there. I mean, I don't know if you guys have caught it today, but the Daily Record have ran my story with regards to Abui, the fellow that played with Arsenal. He's got some issues in his private life, and the Record managed to apparently picture him wearing a Rangers strip from the Emirates Cup a number of years ago. Anything to drag Rangers' name through the mud. The connotations, linked with his story, and the visual conclusions that people will draw from that. People of limited IQ would draw from that. So I try my hardest not to pay much heed. It's obviously you'd be remiss of you not to monitor it, but I try not to give these haters and crazies the oxygen that they crave. The strip obviously has, being an orange strip, you could say, well, it could a nod to the Dutch entourage that were there before. It could just be a colour of a strip. People will say, it's got, the connotations of the Orange Order or whatever. I'm repeating this, but it's a football strip at the end of the day. People have got an agenda against Rangers. They'll find anything. And the strip's just, it's the least of people's worries. And if people in their droves decide that they're going to buy orange strips and it's going to put money in the coffers of the club, then fine. It's going to be a good thing from a club perspective. And I'm certainly not going to have any take offence to it. I've got other things to worry about than the colour of a football strip and who might be, offended by it, whether it's, faux offence or otherwise. So, yeah, it's an insignificant part of it for me, Ross.
I think that's the best way to view it, and you sound like a more patient and more mature person than myself, because I do get a little bit sucked into these people, and there's no arguing with the terminally stupid, is there? Because we've seen folk, whether it's Celtic supporters or supporters of other clubs or particularly minded bloggers, or even people who have the gall to call themselves journalists, have all been making these points that well, the first thing you can say is, well, why are they having an orange strip? Because it's not in the colours of their livery. It's not. Rangers have always had red, white, and blue. So why are they having orange? And you can throw that back because every club has a third strip. And a few years ago, Celtic had a black third strip, but I don't see black in their colours. So, we're not the first club to have a third strip that's an alternative colour. So that's nonsense. And you get the folk saying it's sectarian, or you're conflating religion and politics into football, and there's no need to do that. But again, and this isn't whataboutery, it's pointing out inconsistencies in people's narrow-minded arguments. People saying you're conflating religion and politics and sectarianism into football, and you go, well, what about the Celtic strip in, what was it, 2010, 2011, that had the Irish tricolour on the trim of the sleeves? Was that not conflating politics and religion into football for a Scottish football club to have the Irish flag on their strip? Because to me, that's a political gesture. And I think you have to look at yourself. If you are genuinely not just doing it to get a reaction or to cause trouble, if you are genuinely offended or concerned by the colour of a man's top, I almost envy you, because you must have nothing else of concern in your life. You must float through life with nothing to worry about. Because
I must admit though, Ross, I wasn't very happy with the Scotland pink strip. That was horrible.
It was absolutely bogging, wasn't it? Absolutely both. It was almost as bad as the standard of the Scottish national team's football. I just think it's overblown nonsense, and it's anything to beat this club with, isn't it? In Scotland, it is anything to take us down a peg, and I'm just bored of it. I'm bored of it.
Yeah, Ross, it's just to come in and embellish that. 5-6 years ago, the third strip, when Rangers were sponsored by Tennent's, remember the black strip? I can remember the record. Certainly the record. It may well have been all the tabloids and the Sun as well. They ran a story that it looked like the Germany national team, i.e. the Nazi national team in the 1936 Olympics, because it was black. But don't forget that the reason why Rangers wear black socks with red turnips is the colours of Govan, the borough of Govan, where we obviously play. And as I said previously there, you know, you'll have agendas, editors will have agendas, publishers will have agendas, individual journalists and editors, you know, will ramp this up, and they'll troll through anything, picking any little thing to beat Rangers with, and basically I think we should just ignore it. That'd be the best thing to do. You know, by all means, monitor it, but don't bite. You know, they want a reaction, so we can, you know, trip ourselves up and trying to justify why we've done it and all that. Just don't entertain it. You know, that's my take on it. You know, it's a football strip, and the football strips look good. We play football, and kids, you know, will want to buy strips. Parents will want to buy strips for their kids. Some adults will want to buy strips as well, and good on them. You know, if they want to spend their money and put it towards their club, great. You know, if there's some biofil journalist, blogger, whoever, you know, somebody that fancy themselves as being a self-important social commentator, whatever, just ignore them. It's just noise.
Right, I'm making a resolution here that I'm going to live my life in a more David Fraser way, because it'll do wonders for my mental health if I manage to ignore these chancers. We're almost done, almost out of time here on the Gersnet podcast for this week. There's only time to cover the notorious Sevco of the week. Now, we've had a little discussion off air. We've come up with this week's winner of Sevco of the week. Now, this was a tweet that I found actually on Friday night, just after we'd played our pre-season friendly, from a chap who has really, really swiftly, and I mean maybe 2 to 3 minutes after he's tweeted it, it's been deleted, but I've managed to get a screenshot, and actually I'll probably tweet that from my own account if you want to take a look at it. See if you can spot the error in the following tweet. So transparent, Burnley lay down to Sevco, but they'll pump Aberdeen and make them look good. Disgusting. Now, honestly, one of my favourite things about doing this podcast is Sevco of the week, and it means that I get to troll Celtic Twitter to see the lunacy, the idiocy and the stupidity. And for me to get the Greater Manchester town of Bury mixed up with the Lancashire town of Burnley confused, I mean, it's just idiocy beyond belief. And but actually, usually they wouldn't make that mistake because of their levels of obsession. But hey ho, Sevco of the week for the week goes to that man there. He's deleted his tweet now, but I'm going to tweet the screenshot I've got of that so that you can all have a good laugh. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for us all here at the Gersnet podcast. Like I say, we're all buzzing for the game on Thursday under the lights at Ibrox against FK Scoopy. What we're going to do is we're going to have another podcast in a couple of weeks' time, looking back over the Europa League tie, hopefully looking ahead to a tie against either the Croatians or the Moldovans. There will, I am sure, be plenty of developments over the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. Make sure you've got your eyes open for the next instalment of the Gersnet podcast. All that's left for me to do this evening is to thank both of our guests today. So thank you, a big thanks to both David and to Pete. Also, a huge thanks, as always, go to our audio engineer, Graham. like I say, keep your eyes open. Look out for the next instalment of the Gersnet podcast. And if you want to get involved with any chat, all three of us are registered over on the Gersnet forum. Just head to www.gersnet.co.uk, get registered, get involved, have a chat. We'd love to see you there. There's also plenty of news, gossip, interviews, loads of really good features on that website. So definitely head over and take a look. Other than that, it's goodbye from me and from Pete and David, and hopefully we'll see you soon.